The gavel cracked against polished wood. But the silence in the courtroom was broken not by its echo, but by the sharp command that followed. The judge leaned forward, his voice cold and certain, laced with authority that was meant to brook no defiance. He ordered the man standing before him to remove what hung proudly from his chest: the small blue ribbon, the golden star, the nation's most sacred medal. Gasps rippled through the gallery. A few hands instinctively clutched at mouths. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats, and some looked away, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. A Medal of Honor, ordered to be stripped away like an accessory unfit for the dignity of the court. And yet the man at the center of it all did not move. He stood tall, his shoulders slightly bowed not from weakness, but from years of bearing invisible weight. His uniform, though simple now, carried faint creases that hinted at once being pressed for ceremonies, for burials, for moments where silence spoke louder than words. His eyes, calm yet piercing, held not a shred of panic. Instead, they reflected a depth that made those watching feel as if this man was measuring eternity in the span of a single second. Every gaze in the room turned toward him. The judge's demand lingered in the air like a foul stench, but the veteran's silence was its antidote. He did not reach for the medal. He did not bow his head. He simply stood, his hand brushing faintly against the ribbon, as if steadying it against his heart. He had been called many things in life: soldier, survivor, husband, widower. But here, in this sterile room of legal order and judicial power, he was simply a man defending something far more eternal than rules on paper. He was defending honor itself. Those who watched saw his hands, weathered and lined with scars that spoke of things most could never comprehend. They trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the quiet ache of age, the memories etched in sinew and bone. Every scar told a story, and though no one in that courtroom had asked to hear them, the very sight of the medal demanded they be told. Once, years earlier, the air around him had not been filled with the stale smell of polished wood and disinfectant, but with smoke, fire, and blood. He remembered it vividly: the thunder of artillery shaking the ground, the metallic taste of dirt mixed with gunpowder, the cries of men calling for help in voices already fading into silence. In that storm of chaos, when death prowled like a shadow eager to strike, he had made a choice that forever bound his life to theirs. His squad had been pinned down, surrounded on three sides, their ammunition dwindling as enemy fire rained upon them. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning metal. He remembered the heat of it, how every breath seared his lungs, how fear clawed at the edges of his resolve. And yet he had run, not away but forward, through gunfire, through explosions, through everything that sought to break him. He carried men on his back, dragging them out of fire's reach. He shielded others with his own body. He refused to yield until the last one was pulled from that inferno. That day had taken pieces of him, his hearing in one ear, the strength in his left leg, and more importantly, the laughter of comrades who never came home. The Medal of Honor pinned to his chest was not his alone. It was theirs, too. It was a symbol of every life he had saved and every soul he could not. And so, when the judge commanded its removal, it was not vanity he resisted for. It was memory. It was the sacred weight of those who could not stand in his place. To strip it from him was to strip away their voices. The courtroom watched in tense silence as the judge's face hardened. His demand was repeated, sharper this time, cutting through the air like a blade. Yet again, the veteran remained still. His silence filled the room with a gravity words could never capture. It was the silence of a man who had already faced death and had nothing left to fear. Whispers broke among the spectators. Some lowered their eyes in shame, unwilling to meet his gaze. Others felt outrage simmer within them, though few dared to speak. It was easier, after all, to remain silent in the face of authority than to risk becoming a target themselves. Complicity was comfortable. But comfort, as the veteran knew too well, was the enemy of courage. The tension thickened as the judge threatened contempt. The veteran's jaw tightened, his gaze fixed firmly ahead. He did not argue, he did not plead. He stood as he had on that battlefield years ago, unyielding, steady, ready to endure whatever came. But beneath his calm, a quiet ripple was forming. Among the crowd, unseen at first, were men and women who recognized the medal, who understood its weight not from textbooks or ceremonies, but from their own scars, their own losses. A few were veterans themselves. One wore a faded cap embroidered with the insignia of his old unit. Another leaned heavily on a cane polished smooth by decades of use. Their eyes met the man's, and in that silent exchange a truth passed between them. Honor cannot be commanded away. The gavel slammed again, each strike more frantic than the last, as though the judge believed volume could overpower dignity. But power shifted in that moment. For while the judge held the bench, the veteran held the room. His silence became a roar that none could ignore. It was in the way he stood, unbowed, in the way the medal glistened under the sterile lights like a small sun, untouchable, and then, almost imperceptibly, a change began. The veteran in the faded cap rose to his feet. He said nothing. He simply stood, his back straightening with a dignity that years of pain could not erase. Another followed, then another. Soon, row by row, men and women in the gallery stood, not all veterans, but all bound by a single recognition of something sacred. Their silence became a chorus of defiance, more powerful than any protest could have been. The judge faltered. His gavel froze midair, his words dying in his throat. Authority had no weight against the collective silence of honor. The veteran finally moved. Slowly, deliberately, he placed his weathered hand over the medal. His fingers pressed lightly against the cool metal, steadying it against his heart. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper but sharp enough to pierce every soul in the room, he spoke. They did not come home. I wear this for them. No gavel, no order, no man alive can make me take it off. The words sank into the silence, heavy as stone, unshakable as truth. The gallery held its breath. The judge's face reddened, caught between the brittle pride of authority and the undeniable force of reverence standing before him. He opened his mouth to speak, but his voice faltered when he realized no one would side with him now. Not in this. The veteran did not gloat. He did not sneer or smile. He simply stood, his hands still on the medal, his eyes fixed forward, calm and resolute. His silence reclaimed the courtroom. And then something remarkable happened. The very clerk who had scribbled notes nervously through the proceedings rose to her feet. She was not a veteran, nor a soldier's widow, but her father had been, and in that moment she too stood in silent respect. Others followed, lawyers, strangers, even those who had come for unrelated cases. One by one, they rose until nearly the entire courtroom stood. A hushed reverence blanketed the space, suffocating the arrogance that had tried to strip dignity from its rightful place. The judge could not command them back into their seats. He could not erase the truth burning before him. Power had shifted completely, and it was irreversible. The veteran lowered his hand from the medal at last, but it remained untouched, untarnished, glowing against his chest like a flame that could never be extinguished. He turned his gaze toward the judge, not with anger, but with something far more piercing, pity. For what is authority without respect? What is law without honor? The judge muttered something inaudible, his eyes dropping, his gavel set down with trembling fingers. In that moment, it was clear who had truly lost. The veteran, with nothing more than silence and dignity, had won a victory greater than any argument could deliver. His honor had defended itself. When he walked out of that courtroom, the gallery did not follow with noise or applause. They followed with silence, the purest kind of respect. Some saluted quietly, others simply bowed their heads. The doors closed behind him, but the weight of that moment remained, etched into the hearts of all who witnessed it. And long after, when people spoke of what had happened that day, they did not remember the judge's command. They remembered the man who stood unshaken, the medal that glowed like a star in defiance of arrogance, and the silence that became more powerful than thunder, because dignity cannot be ordered away. Honor cannot be stripped by command. And some battles are won not with weapons, but with the unyielding strength of a man who refuses to bow. If you're hearing this story now, Perhaps you feel the weight of it too, the weight of sacrifices made, of respect earned, of silent heroes who walk among us every day. Take a moment to share where you're watching from, to let others know this story reached you. Leave your thoughts on what honor means to you, and never forget, silence, when bound to truth, is the loudest voice of all. And if you want more stories that remind us of the quiet strength in ordinary heroes, subscribe and stay with us. Because some battles do not end on the battlefield. They continue here, in the hearts of those willing to remember